Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Diary of a Property Pro. We are going to dive into the main topic. Is it as simple as buy a property and stick it on Airbnb and just watch the money roll in? Now, contrary to what you might have been told, that isn't the case. So we're going to dive into what you should look out for, the trap that you shouldn't fall into, and what you should do if you find yourself in there. It can be rescued, but you need to pay attention. We're going to give you some of our top insider tips on how to pull yourself out of that hole, or if you're thinking about doing it, how to avoid those pitfalls. We're going to tell you what to avoid, what to look at, and what sort of things to consider if you're thinking about doing this with a property you're buying or one that you currently have. And if you think that's too daunting, maybe just pass it over to the guys that have been there, done that, and got the t-shirt. So without further ado, let's dive right in. Right, this is a great topic. I have seen this land people in hot water. So, for the horse's mouth, is being successful in the short-term industry just as simple as get a property, fire it on Airbnb, and watch the money roll in?
Absolutely not.
Why not?
And you're talking to a guy here that has built a multi-million-pound serviced accommodation business in 12 months. I've done all the shite, I've done all the bad stuff, done all the good stuff as well.
Yep.
Probably still to learn a bit more, but I would put myself up there with probably one of the top guys in Scotland that know about Airbnb and how to run an Airbnb business.
Yep.
Inside 12 months.
Okay. So what do you think is the trap that people fall into?
As you said at the start, people think, oh, Airbnb, like, they call it, is that an Airbnb property?
It's actually developed its own name. It's actually developed its own name, but it's like, it's not like Airbnb marketing department must be sitting there applauding it like, yes.
Thank you.
Because their company is attached to a method within the property industry. Their marketing department has nailed it.
I get a really good buzz about Airbnb properties. You know that? Like, I'm even saying it. Short-term lets. It's like I've done a lot of stuff in property investing, from flips, buy-to-lets, serviced accommodation, refurbs, everything. But the thing that I get the buzz of now is building my serviced accommodation business. Probably the best thing about it is no dealing with tenants. You know how hard that can be now.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I've sourced hundreds and hundreds of buy-to-let properties for investors right at the start of my journey, and now since I've started over the last 12 to 14 months, started building the SA business. That's all I deal with now. If an investor comes to me and is demanded, they want a buy-to-let property, I will source you one, but we'll also show them the good parts and the best parts of like owning a serviced accommodation. So I got a good buzz about it now.
So can people not just go on to Rightmove, buy a property, ping it on Airbnb, and they're good to go?
They probably could, but they're not going to get the best performance out of it.
Like what differentiates? Like what do people not know? Because they're going to be like, okay, it seems simple. I've literally heard guys go, well, can't be that hard, I'll do it myself, and watch the disaster unfold.
And then they come to us.
Yeah. There's a guy that got in contact with me, and he was a friend of a friend, and he says, I says, look, you should consider doing this, and he never heard back from him. He's went and did it himself. He's then passed it on to another management company that made a complete backside of it, and then he came back to me and he's like, are you interested in this? I'm like, well, what have you done with it? He's like, well, yeah, I tried it myself and I gave it to this management company. I said, well, you can deal with it.
Yeah,
I'm not interested. And there was like, the reason you should have gave me it at the start, and we could have done something with it. I was like, but you wanted to do it as cheaply as possible, and you cut us out the picture after us bringing the idea to you, and then you've went and sort of hoored and toured it around the providers, and now you're like, oh, they can't do what you can do. So, like, nah, you're all right. We're fine. We don't need one more property is not going to make a blind bit of difference to us. No, you've made your bed, you can lie in it.
I mean, our name's out there now, so like even without investors coming to us, and investors want us to find the deals for them to invest in and add into our management company. The amount of landlords that are coming to us with properties now and saying, I'm hearing what you are doing, here's my property, can you put it on your system and start putting it out as short term let? That's happening every single week just now. So that's a good thing, because again, we only started this 14 months ago, and the growth is just exceptional. Yeah.
What would you say that people miss?
You can't cut corners in Airbnb. It's not like a buy to let where you buy the property and you just give it a lick of paint and you put a tenant in it. You've got to get it to the right standard for a start. So get the property in the right area. I don't really like flats, although we have got some flats. I like houses.
Why?
Because obviously you've got, if you're going for the flat, people that's coming up to stay for a couple of days or at a wedding or whatever, they're happy enough staying in an apartment. Whereas if you've got a 3 or a 4 bedroom house, it opens up the book to more people than just your day-to-day holiday maker. So if your day-to-day holiday maker, there's only like seasons, they'll maybe come and go as well. If you're wanting to get your property to work 12 months of the year, you've got to look at other avenues, and the other 2 avenues that we focus on are contractors and insurance companies. So if you've got a contractor, they're not wanting all 3 guys squeezed into a 2 or 3 bedroom flat, a house will work better. Yeah. So focusing more on houses just now.
Yeah. Well, other things like you mentioned cutting corners. When you say that, is that just in terms of the decor?
Not just the decor. Like, you've got, I think, getting everyone down on point. Where putting the right colours in, as you say, decor. Getting the property refurbed to a really good standard. It's got to stick out for the rest. So for 3 or 4 Airbnbs in or short-term lets in the area, 1's yours and 3 are different companies. You want that to look better than the 3. Because if somebody's going online and looking at the photos, whether it be Airbnb or Book.com, Expedia, Travel Scotland, all these platforms that we put our properties onto, you want your property to stand out. You know what it's like when you're looking for a holiday. You're jumping online, you're going, oh, that looks great. So that's what you need to make your property look like. And that all comes down to getting the right colours on the walls, the right flooring, the right furniture, the right kitchen and bathrooms in there. Don't just put a standard kitchen and bathroom in. It's got to be kind of higher end than a buy-to-let. So all these wee nitty-picky things need to be good. And again, it comes down to, you just put it on Airbnb and hope for the best. You do get a lot of people that will just go, right, I'll just do a standard renovation there. Yep. But their standard renovation and my higher end renovation, I'm going to get more occupancy rate than them. You know? Yep.
In terms of, like, what difference would that be in cost between a standard refurb and a high-end refurb? In terms of, like, if you were to put a percentage on it, you're going to be spending like 5% more, 20% more, 100% more? Depending
on the area and what you're trying to achieve with it, I think. If you're going to just, if it's predominantly for contractors, I wouldn't go and do a high-end holiday let standard renovation. A wee bit more less maybe, because contractors are just in there to have for somewhere to stay. You know, they're out working all day. Yeah. Whereas if we've got the one that we've got up in the bay, looks on the bridges, that's done a wee bit more better standard because of where it is and what we're going to be using it for.
Yep. And what would you say, like, I see a lot of tools, technology-based tools. Now, you know how ingrained I get into data. Like, you know, I get into, like, the granular detail. Yeah. What do you think of these tools that predict what people will get if they do this?
So you on about like the extensions and stuff you get on Google and stuff like that if you're looking at a property or you're on Airbnb, it'll come up and tell you the analytics of occupancy rates and stuff like that. What a lot of crap. What a lot of crap. The best data that you can get is the data on the ground, the properties that you've got in the areas. You're looking at them, they're doing well. You're looking at other ones that are doing well in that area. That's the best data.
Well, the one that comes to mind is, I was explaining this to Irish Dave, who's on my podcast. Now, Irish Dave, by his own admission, is not academic, right? It would be foolish to call him thick because he's extremely intuitive. Yeah. but just academically never got a shot at school, and he just knew that he was going to be a guy that would work with his hands. He's very intuitive. So his intelligence wouldn't be measured in our academic form. And he was asking me, he says, like, how do you work out, like, how do you work this out? So I was showing him how you, like, most people try and work it out. And then I was showing him why that doesn't work. And it blew his mind.
Yeah.
And he can follow it because I'm explaining to him, I was like, well, here's this provider. And it was the same provider that provided the information on the Scottish government framework, which was a joke. The paperwork, their framework for regulation was a farce, and they were using incomplete data from one of the providers. And I knew that it was incomplete. And the reason that I knew that it was incomplete was I knew how they collected their data, of which they produced these numbers from. And I compared it to real data that we have, where we go, oh, this is only a partial picture. And you go, oh, I'm not getting the full picture here. And even Irish David says, he's like, so you're not getting to see the full thing? I'm like, no. Yeah. He's like, so how would people do it? I was like, because they need to, if they understood that this thing was only some of the picture, but what they're doing is they're treating it as like the whole picture. And we've certainly seen, in terms of what information that they give, they tend to aim on the high side. So you can imagine what that means is that if someone's searching, well, I've got this property in this area, what might it do?
Yeah.
And it comes up with numbers that are just not connected to reality.
No.
And they go, well, I can, just buy a property, put it in Airbnb, and then there's a tumbleweed going by the door. Why am I not getting the 357 quid a night that the data told me I would get? And it's like, well, because it's incomplete, inaccurate, it's based on a whole area, not a specific area, that it's only collected from certain online travel agencies and not them all. It doesn't show an accurate representation of real occupancy because it's not collected all the data, and you're getting this skewed information.
If you can remember right at the start, we tried it with our own properties first as well. Instead of just going out and telling an investor, oh, I'll make £200 a night and it'll be 90% occupancy rate for 12 months, which a lot of people will do. Or they'll look at these daft data things online and stuff. They'll send them over the data, which aren't true. So the good thing about what we tried it with some of our own properties first just to see how it would work. Yeah. And then, as you know, some of them done. Well,
I'm not naming the areas, but there's areas in, like, this is what happens is if you look at how the data is proportioned, what, like, you've got some tech geek somewhere who's got an IQ about 200 billion, right, who's sitting there on a computer working out some algorithmic calculations that plugs into this super duper computer that pumps out all this information, right? But if you grab that guy from wherever he is in whatever basement he works in, right, and you says, listen, Jim, come over here, right? We could take him to a point in Glasgow, and in Glasgow you could have this property doing 300 quid a night, right? And 75 yards away is fucking Baghdad, and you've got better chances of surviving. Like, you have got literally one of the roughest parts that's 75 yards away from one of the best parts. But he's there working out a map around this area called Glasgow and averaging it out using his algorithmic data, and they're like, nah. Like, this isn't going to work here, because you need to know how this thing's made up.
Yeah.
And it's that lack of, it doesn't hit the mark, and you can see how people fall into the trap. Yeah.
We're in a great position now where we've got that many properties in a lot of different areas, some 2 or 3 properties in the same area. So if I see a deal online or whatever, and the first thing I'm doing is going, right,
what have you got in the area?
Right, what have I got 5 mile radius for that? How are they, 4 of them performing? Punch numbers into a sheet and it'll come up green or red if it works or not.
Well, that's been part of your parabolic rise, is that because we done this first with our own stuff, like, we went out and tested it. So when you're speaking to an investor, and an investor's going, can this work? And you're like, right, here's the sheet for the property 2.3 miles away that we have and have run for this amount of months. There's the numbers. And they're not looking at, predictions based on data, based on, Jim the geek in, a Minnesota basement under an LED light plugging algorithms in, he doesn't know Postle for Bearsden.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, and he's like, all right, okay. So that when you show them something like that, they go, okay, I get it.
Show them real stuff on the ground.
Yeah.
It was like maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, I think it was. It was a property close to one of the Edinburgh ones that we've got, and I was showing the investor the numbers, and I was showing him the property. He's like it was like £200 a night I was putting in it. That was me going low with it, and I'm going, like, these are the numbers. This is the property. What do you? He's like, how the hell can you make that money in that property there? There's no chance it can happen. So what I done was I went on and pulled all the data for 2 properties that we've got there, and I was like, see this property here. See in August last month, the first month that we put it up at £250, £300 a night. I can't remember what it was. Made £7,500 in 1 month.
Yep.
So you're telling me that I can't make 200 on that one, which is about 2 miles for it.
Yep.
So as soon as you show them that kind of stuff, like let's go.
Yep.
You know, so it's good and it's handy that we're that further down the line in our journey with serviced accommodation now that we've got all that our own data. We don't need to rely on online crap.
Well, I mean, I remember when we found Irish Dave. He affectionately calls it the cash cow. He says because he just seems to milk it and cash falls out it. And he says, do you know the story behind this? No.
Vaguely, yeah.
Right. So the story, just Dave had contacted me because believe it or not, we covered this off in our last episode. The solicitor was a pile of shit. Right, yeah. It was a pile of fucking dung. Right, it says the first thing you do is you disengage that solicitor. They're hopeless. Right, maybe he's giving them benefit of the doubt, just like you said. You know, there was a failure that he made when you started out. You just wanted to hope that it was all going to work itself out. So Dave's like, you know, look, this is what they're telling me, and they're saying if I don't do this, I need to pull out of the deal. And it's actually a really funny story. I'll keep it short because I didn't know there was Irish Gaelic. And he sent me the bank statement. He's like, I've sent them the bank statement, and she says that she can't read it. And I'm, what do you mean she can't read it? Are you taking a picture of your phone? He says, no, it's clear as day. I says, like, well, send me it over. And he sends it over, and I'm like, Dave, what the fuck's this back? Like, I can read the numbers. What fucking language is this in? And he's like, it's Irish. I'm like, what Irish? What do you mean Irish? And he's like, well, like, Irish? But is Irish different from English? And he's like, no, it's like Gaelic. I'm like, you got Gaelic over there? I thought we just had Gaelic up here. He's not, you got Irish Gaelic. I'm like, I didn't know that. And it was how it played out. And I thought, and it was funny because it's a classic Scottishman, Irishman kind of, patter. It's that crack where you have a good time and you just innocently end up discussing this. I'm like, you better send me the fucking Da Vinci Code combination. What I said. I don't know what any of this is, Dave.
That's brilliant.
So he says, look, I hooked him up with my solicitor. Says, look, they'll take care of you. Here, go and do it. And I was like, right, let me have a look at the property. And I can't remember what he was buying. I was like, Dave, this thing is a pile of fucking nonsense. This is a bag of broken spanners. But just positive mental attitude. And I'm like, Dave, right, give me 5 minutes, I'll find you something. So I found them a property. This one, found them a property, got it done. We helped him out because he was like, right, look, I'll just leave it empty. I'll leave it empty until I sell a few.
Can you remember when you found that property, you phoned me and you asked me if we had any properties in that area, and I showed you the data from the one that was just down the street.
Yep, that's right.
And that's just amazing.
That's the power of it. Because I actually aimed on the low side with Dave. I says, look, this one up the road is doing this, and we've got this, but it's a bit bigger than the one that you've got. So it might not do great numbers, but you're looking for about $350 a month rent, and I reckon confidently we can get you about £1,100. And it blew his mind, and he's like, what do you mean £1,100? This is, I think that's what we can get you. He says, but look, it needs a bit spent on it, it needs a bit of work, and it needs to be done to a higher standard, and if you're prepared for that, then I think we should go for it. So he was like, right, he was up. To be fair to Dave, he was in a bit of a jam because I think it was more than he could really manage at the time. He had loads of stock in terms of vehicles, loads of cash tied up, so he was like, I don't really know. And I sort of nudged him and says, look, we'll show you this one, right? Nudge you into it, and you're going to. And he's like, he cannot believe what's happened since.
I'm sure that property you're speaking about is booked out for 3 months now.
That's right.
And it's not, as we spoke about earlier, your average holiday maker. It's about looking at all different avenues. What we do in that property, I'm sure it's an insurance mob that's in there.
Is it?
Aye. Something's wrong with the woman's house. It's getting. Maybe went fire or something like that. So we've got ties with a couple of insurance companies now where they'll phone us up and say, right, if you get any 1 beds or 2 beds, we can put our clients up on 2, 3, 4 months at a time. So I'm sure it's £1,500 a month for a 1 bed. It costs, what was it, £40,000 or something. So that one's doing really well. And
this is what I'm saying. I mean, like Dave's recommended us no end to other clients. I mean, I think like, a lot of the listeners have tuned in from. I see the information from Spotify. I'm like, how am I getting so many downloads from Ireland? So Dave's obviously doing a good job spreading the word, and this is the power of word of mouth. Because I'd introduced him to you. I said, look, Smyth will take care of everything. He's like on point with all the refurbs. Get the furniture in, we'll get it dealt with, we'll get it all up to speed. And he was telling a friend of his, and he was saying, he's like the guy's double checking. He phones me up and he says, like, is Dave telling me this? Like, Dave's telling me this is what you do, and he's like, is this right? Mm-hmm. He's like, so I just need to buy the property. You'll find me it, but you don't need to do anything. You take care of all the stuff. You get the furniture in, you get the people in, you deal with the bookings, you just pay me.
Yep.
I was like, yeah. It's like that blows my mind. This is, well, like, you don't take my word for it. Can I ask him?
Yeah, definitely.
So like Dave's doing a great job spreading the word over there. So we're big news in Ireland.
We're branching, we're taking over.
So we maybe need to go over there and get sew up the south. We'll get into the south and get into that market. So yeah, well, you think don't get stuck on the simplicity of what people suggest it is, and certainly don't get caught up on the tools that are available to try and work it out.
Yeah. Even going back to the start part that we spoke about, it isn't easy doing this. You need to know what you're doing.
Yep.
Not anybody can just jump in and do this.
How did you find out?
About starting this?
No, how did you find out in terms of, like, so you know what you're doing now, but when you started, you probably didn't know what you know now. What was that journey like?
Put the work in. Like, I can remember at the start when we were the first kind of 10 properties, we done everything ourselves. I can remember me and my wife, Lorna, we've probably said this before in another episode, that one of the first ones we done. We used to go out and do the furnishings and make the beds and all that ourselves.
You good at making a bed?
No, she done that part. I done the dusting.
But sometimes I see some of the beds.
I'm like,
did you?
Aye, we done it at the start with nobody to do it. So it came that quick. Like the first few properties that we done ourselves with our own properties to try it out, we done it all ourselves. And then we started introducing it to investors, and maybe landlords were asking us to really, we need to try and get somebody to help us here. And it wasn't as easy at the start because we didn't know anybody. It was if we were just getting into serviced accommodation, so we didn't know cleaners, we didn't know furnishing teams. I can remember one day, me and Lorna were getting, what's that shop called? In the retail park, you get all the furniture, B&M. I think she had 2 trolleys and I had 2 trolleys, and it was just full of like lampshades and mops and wee ornaments and rugs and all that. It was mad. We were at the till for like an hour buying it all, and I'm like, what are we doing here?
It's exciting. It's a buzz.
2 cars like filled to the brim with just loads of stuff pulling up. She was handing it into me and I was putting it in. It was, looking back, it was madness. And then one thing that we get caught up on once is we get a last minute booking in because we were leaving that one the next day to get it set up. And I'm like, oh no, bookings came in. So me and Lorna had to rush away down to Dumbarton to start fucking making beds and putting furnishings in before this guest arrived. And we were still in there doing it, and they were standing outside waiting to get in.
Really?
Aye, so see, looking back to all that, you're like, how the hell did we do this, man?
And look now, I remember you were going away about 14 minutes ago because you leave I'm surprised you're not away now. You need to get away to your happy place every week and a half or something. Aye. So you were in, you were saying that you were on holiday and you had this refurb planned. Now, after I've worked to some tight deadlines, and I said to you, Smyth,
I knew we would do
Smyth, well, you were testing the limits of optimism here. I'm like, these guests are going to be checking in, the paint's not going to be drying the wall. And you're like, nah, I'll be able to do it. And you pulled it off. Now look at what we discussed in the last episode of look at the disasters that were unfolding, to look at the point where even someone with the experience I've got is going, that's really like you're really, really pushing the boundaries of what can be done. And that wasn't a 60-minute makeover. editorial job where they can edit in 60 minutes. This was a real life project, and it shows the power of having guys that you can rely on, guys that you can trust. They know what you need, they know what you expect, they can work at pace, and they can achieve a result that even at a tight timeline can be pulled off.
Even one of the team members, the gas guy, David, he even said he's like, there's absolutely no chance this is getting ready for the 8th of January. And I'm like, I'll be ready, don't worry. Because see, at the start of my journey, I would never have been ready. That'd have been a fuck up, the guests would have been arriving, nothing would have been done. But I actually went away on holiday for 11 nights, knowing that my team would have delivered. I didn't even need to be there, because I've got the right teams in place now. I can trust them. If they say they're going to be there, I know they're going to be there. So it's a great position to be in.
Good. So, in conclusion, don't just buy a property and ping it on Airbnb.
Yeah.
Where should people go if they want to get you to sort them out?
Yeah, I mean, like, built a very successful business over the past 14 months, as I said. So you can get us on our social media. William at Flip Properties. We've got Flip Properties Limited. You can get a look on the website there. It's got a lot of stuff on there that you can learn from as well if you want to get in touch. We've also built up the management company because we're a one-stop shop now, as you know. You're also part of that with us. That's flitstays.com, so you can go on there, you can check up our properties on there. So, yeah.
Good. Well, I think it was a great episode to give people some pointers and keep them away from a big potential trap, because we've seen it firsthand what happens when people end up in that hole and they go, oh, this didn't turn out the way I thought it would. And it's one thing doing that with a property you own, but imagine buying a £300,000 property that you think is going to do blockbuster numbers and then it doesn't pull any money in. That's something to be avoided. That's a noose around your neck that you don't need.
Yeah.
And if you do find yourself in that situation, then there may be a rescue. There might be a crisis solver, and the power of Flit Stays looking at their data, looking at how they can turn that around. And we've certainly resolved a few issues over the time with people who have made a mistake or two, shall we say.
Yeah, definitely.
So we hope you enjoyed this episode of Diaries of a Property Pro. You can follow us on all our social media channels, but at Diary of Property Pro on Instagram. You can visit the website in the show notes. There's Flit Stays and Flit Properties. The websites will both be in the show notes below. Feel free to get in touch with us. You can email us at the email address will be in the show notes, and also you can contact us on social media. So we'd love to hear your feedback. Any comments, make sure to share it around. And if you like this, be sure to subscribe and follow us. We're on YouTube, so if you prefer to watch us talking about this for your own reasons, then come and see us on our YouTube channel. We've got clips and shorts that'll be uploaded daily to there for all your top tips on how you can improve as a property investor. If you fancy getting your mindset into shape, like we discussed earlier on, we've got a mindset community. And if you really want to get into this and you fancy having a crack at it yourself, we'll be releasing a property community and a property course. Details will be in the show notes below. So with that, we hope you enjoyed this week, and we'll see you in the next one. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Diary of a Property Pro. Now, is there a bomb about to go off in the property market? Have I got it all wrong? Is this the prediction that I don't get right? How did I figure out that this is likely to happen? What can we see that's happening out there that gives us that information? And what should you be aware of? And how should you move accordingly if you're in the wrong strategy or the wrong method? Well, we're going to dive into it in this week's episode, and we're going to go into detail, and we're going to talk about all the nooks and crannies and all the secret bits of information that I've found over the years that help me to give a high prediction rate on what's likely to come next. So without further ado, let's dive right in.